Well, this is a very special treat today for Tips for Love Tuesday. I have Jenn Cormier in the house. Did I say your last name right? Cormier?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
We've known each other for years. I'm like, oh shit, I only know you as Jenn.
Cormier, you can make it French it up or not. It's all good.
Cormier. Well, typically, Jenn, I do my tips for love. And every once in a while, I'm like, oh, wait a second. This is a really important piece to support these women in the second half of life. And the topic is healing from grief. And Jenn, this is Jenn's, this is her specialty. I mean, she helps people transform grief and loss into joy. And what we're going to do today, we were talking about this, like, how can we share this message and tie it to you guys on how to do this healing journey with yourself so that you can really open up to more love. I just want to give you just like a brief introduction to who she is. And you could always find more information about her in the show notes. She's the founder of Heal, a year-long immersion program for women, and the creator of the Walk Through Grief with Grace podcast. Jenn has helped thousands of people overcome physical and emotional pain. Her approach as a somatic healing arts practitioner is to help you be kinder to yourself. Can't talk today. Be kinder to yourself so you can feel good again. And a lot of it's about honoring the sacred in your life so you can live out your unique legacy. And so if you're in a place of wanting to have more joy, purpose, expansion, love, we need to do some grief work. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for doing the work in the world that you're doing. You are spectacular. I friggin' love you. And let's just dive right in. I mean, where do you start? And actually, let me actually ask you this question. When I think of grief, or I think when most people think of grief or loss, they're thinking somebody died. And I know that's a lot of what you do. And what I also know is women have lost relationships. They have had a lot of loss. Kids flying the coop, that's a loss. And so I would love to expand on all, how to deal with loss across the board, not just somebody died, because there are widows here, as well as people that are feeling some deep grief around a relationship they thought was going to last forever, or a child that just moved out. So where do you start with all of this so that they can really find their joy again and their movement toward expansion in this beautiful second half of life?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that piece in, Junie, because it's not just death. I think people think, who's experiencing grief? I don't really know anybody, I don't know anybody experiencing grief. And I kind of chuckle, I'm like, who is not experiencing some level of grief right now? Because we go right away to, did your partner die? Did your parent die? Did your child die? But really, there's been so much pain in clients of mine around, they come to me maybe because their mother died, but then really the layers that are the ones we end up working through and working on are, now I'm estranged from my brother, or this dream of this relationship, this love relationship, a breakup. I mean, when I went through my last breakup, that was more grief for me than the death of a friend or a grandparent. It was so big. And I think that it's really important to think, when I had something that I was counting on and it didn't go through the way that I wanted, I go through a grieving process after that. And we want to skip right to, the next thing, the joy. I want to just get over it. And that's our culture really perpetuates that. Just get over it, right?
You had loss. You have 2 weeks to grieve, and then you have to come back to work, put it in a box, and just come on back as if nothing happens.
Yeah. And what I want to say to that is, so many women, we've just been acculturated to helping other people and doing it ourselves and just getting through it. We're just going to power through. And I know women that have come to me, Junie, there's I've just been powering through for 6 years. I had this loss 6 years ago, and I've been working 2 jobs. We'll overwork, we'll overeat, we'll medicate, we'll over everything to avoid those feelings because we think we're supposed to just get over it.
Yeah.
Really, the gift is if we can move through it. And I know you do a lot of work with your clients and women with this as well. But if we can be with it, I think the first step is really acknowledging. It's just acknowledgement. Like, oh man, even I just had like something that I did, and I was like, oh, I was hoping that was going to be something else. And I had to sit down with myself after, during a meditation and go, I'm really disappointed. And I'm supposed to I was just moving on to all these other stuff, but let me just pause for a second. I was really disappointed. This didn't work out. And I was hoping around this thing, and that didn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm really feeling some disappointment. And if I can really acknowledge that first, then I can move through the feelings around it. And then I'm open to the next thing. Then I'm open to the joy.
Oh my God, I love that, because it's not just these huge things and I've got to handle it, and then all the grief that's associated with it and the healing over time. But there, we call them micro traumas, right? It's like every day there's like not every day. Oh, thank God, not every day. Every hour. Shoot me if it was every day. But there are moments that are ouches. And like you said, these disappointments, like even, I wanted to go to that great restaurant and I was looking forward to it and I just heard it closed. I mean, that's such a minor loss, but to be able to go, to be able to take that time to go, ouch, that time to acknowledge. So I really love that piece. And the other thing that I really want to hone in on, which is, you said that the relationship and that ended and how huge it was, and it might have been more huge compared to maybe some of the other losses in your life. How I view grief, and I'm curious if you agree with this, and if you don't, that's totally great. We can riff on this, which is I kind of believe that every grief just taps into grief. And so whenever I have a loss, even if it's a minor loss or a relationship loss, it taps into some of the significant loss of my dad, of my first boyfriend, of my last boyfriend. Like I've had some huge losses in my life. So there's there are these tethers of experiences in my life. And for me, my dad's death when I was 14, it's deep. And so I'm taking layers and layers and layers off. And so when I get poked in the grief category, to me, it's all the same thing for me. And I'm just curious, do you see it that way? And if not, totally cool. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I was just having a conversation on the podcast with Gabby Jimenez. She's an end-of-life doula and a hospice nurse. And she likes to call it pancake grief, where, you have that loss maybe when you were a child of your father dying, and then all these little things that happen over the course of your life, they just add up like a stack of pancakes, compounding grief. And I hear you when you say it's like I got poked, it's like this happened and then, and now I'm feeling my dad. And it is moment by moment, right? I remember being, I think I was pregnant, or Akoya was small. My son's name is Akoya. And I was in a parking lot. And this was years after my dad died. But I'm hearing across the parking lot, this grandfather with his grandkids, like, we're going to go to, or it was a mom with their kids. We're going to go to granddad's and you can have this ice cream and whatever. And I just stopped in the parking lot and bawled, just bawling. Because I heard that it was like a poke, like my kid's never going to go to my dad, have ice cream. He's never going to know my dad.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was right there. It was right under the surface.
I like to think about it in moments, because we think just like if you're an entrepreneur and you're growing a business, or just like, if you're an artist and you have a career or whatever, you think, I'm going to start here and I'm going to build my skills or whatever. And it's going to be this line of like, my dad died. And then from here, it's just going to get easier and easier until the grief goes away. I think that's what we think. Like, this is hard. It's just going to be like a diagonal. It's all over the place.
It is. It's messy. It's messy. It's all over the place. Yeah.
And there are moments that bring us into that deep, painful place. So tap into the joy piece to circle it back around.
Yeah.
So the short answer is yes, I see it just like you do, very similar to the way you see it. And I think that if we can, where we get in trouble and where we start having health issues is when we like, oh, I don't like what just happened. I just thought of my dad when I saw this family in the parking lot, and I'm gonna rage against that, and I'm gonna look down,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do whatever I can
To
to
not feel.
not feel. And,
Let me eat a lot of food and let me do everything but, or come out sideways and rage, but not
yeah,
heal.
and not heal. And what I'll say to that is like, yes, we all have a whole bouquet of coping mechanisms, and some are successful and healthy, and some are not so healthy, and some are not so successful, or whatever. But if we can first acknowledge, and then from there, give it a little bit of time. And I teach my clients 3 minutes. You know, when I was grieving my dad, I went through a really conscious year of grieving, and I would set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I go, grief, I could feel anything in 15 minutes. And I started going through a process, just 15 minutes a day, just letting myself. And then I gave myself permission. If I want to go crawl in bed after that, if I want to go eat some Ben and Jerry's, I can do whatever I want, but I'm just going to be here with what's here for this long. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we just need 3 minutes to make a whole bunch of sound, to shake, to
give it space,
to moan, to give it some space. And that is what we didn't learn in school. That's not, it's all these skills that you're teaching too. We didn't learn. Yeah. And we need to cultivate them as adults so that we can really move smoothly and with ease and grace through our lives and have successful relationship with ourselves and with partners and family and friends, and be able to really source joy. Because if we can feel that deep trench, it's not going to last forever. I think that's what people think. Oh, I'm going to fall apart. If I go there, I'm going to just completely crumble and I'm never going to get back up again.
Right.
But what I want to say is everything shifts. Despair will shift into sadness, will shift into anger, will shift into disappointment, will shift. Like those emotions shift pretty fast when we allow ourselves to move through them. And then if we have the capacity to be down here, then our capacity for joy expands.
Right there. I mean, we have different modalities and a different way of looking at it, through different semantics around this. But that's what I always say is we need to be able to feel. We need to be able to grease the wheels of our heart and our emotion. If we push it away and I want to stay in the light, I want to stay in the joy, it's not authentic. It has a price. And then we're going to come out differently when it comes to relationships, and certainly the relationship to ourselves. And when we can allow ourselves to move that energy, we're able to rise so much faster. And I say it's like greasing the wheel between grief and joy, because if we avoid one, we can get stuck in another, and there's a price we pay. And when we're talking to women here that are in the second half of life that are wanting to open up their hearts, and love is risky, and part of relationship is loss and of course joy. So I love that you're talking about giving it room, giving us a place to express and have relationship with that, so that we can rise into joy. Have you noticed that with your clients in reference to their relationship to their self with their partners or potential partners?
Yeah, I think when you're in that deep space of loss, it's hard. It's hard to, now I'm going to go be in this new relationship, right? And of course, sometimes we do that and it's successful or not so successful. But what I do see is I see the capacity growing for love. I see the capacity for creativity growing. People become so much more creative and so much more capable to hold other people. Then we become better partners, right? Because then we can show up for our romantic partners or our friends, and we can hold them through whatever they're going, and we don't have to fix it. What's worse when you just had one of the hardest experiences of your life? You go to your best friend, you go to your partner, and they just want to put a Band-Aid on it. Well, let me fix it. And they scurry around to fix you when you're like, I just want to be held.
Yeah.
Yes. But if we can't go through that and hold ourselves, how do we expect to show up and hold our partner? So
Yeah.
we have to work on that ourselves so we can become the best partner. And we want it, the other people to be able to hold us,
Mhm.
as
You're
well.
singing my song when it's what I share a lot with the women in this group and the people that I work with, which is we need to have that relationship with ourselves, and we need to be able to hold ourselves and hold our hearts. And when we can do that, we can open more and receive more. I love that you're talking about holding them and being able to have that really special container with a new partner, and to partner ourselves in a way that we can hold our hearts and know that we can relax and trust and
Yeah.
be gentle. And I love that you mentioned being kind, in your bio, because when we could be gentle and kind to ourselves and really honor that relationship, we can receive that love. And and I love that you brought in the creativity too, because in the lover realm, that's the archetype that we talk about in shadow work with grief. It's like when we can really tap into this energy, so it's not stuck, so it's not pushed down, where, like you said, to give it that time, the timer. I love that tool. Great tool to be able to be with it. Then we can relax and open, and the juices start flowing. And then we can rise into whatever it is we want to rise into, whether it's a partnership, whether it's, some project or some purpose-driven vision. So I absolutely love that, what you're bringing here for sure. I know you have a 3-day event coming up. Can you share about this? Because this sounds amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the end of March, the last 3 days of March, it's March 29th, 30th, and 31st. I have a 3-part event called How to Feel Joy Again After Loss.
Mm,
And we're going to go into some practices and some tools in, no matter where you are in your journey with loss, if it's fresh, like I just had a loss last week, or it's 6 years ago, and you know what, I'm realizing that I never dealt with it, and here I am,
yeah.
suffering in my work or my relationships or whatever it is. I'm going to move through some practices that I teach my clients,
Mm,
and we'll also have an opportunity to just be on Zoom in a community for those who are able to come live, to be able to share. And that's really powerful, and totally optional. And these events, I do them a couple times a year, and they're really some of my favorite places to be. So if you're looking for some release of the tangled, heavy, empty feeling that might come with a loss, if you're looking to feel more capacity for joy, then I would really welcome you to join us.
who wouldn't want more capacity for joy? And in my opinion, there's always more room to open to joy. And a lot of it is emptying out and healing the grief. A few weeks ago, I did some plant medicine. I did a plant medicine journey.
Mhm.
And throughout the whole journey, I was kind of unpacking a lot of the losses in my life, mostly relationships, specifically relationship losses. And at one point, the facilitator said, you haven't mentioned anything about your dad. Can you remind me about your dad? And I instantly I said, everything's about my dad. Everything we just talked about is about my dad, because it's all tied. And for me, there's, like, again, all these different layers and levels. And so having that space for me to process was such a gift that I gave to myself. And your event and your tools, that's a gift. That is such a precious gift, to give yourself the time to actually kind of go, what's here? What might I not have explored? So we will make sure that the link for, what's the event called?
It's called How to Feel Joy Again After Loss.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And so as we've been talking, there's lots of different types of losses, and there's losses that happened a long time ago. So we'll make sure that the link is in the show notes if you're watching YouTube, or in the comments below if you're watching the live Facebook group. Oh my God, it sounds like an amazing event, and so needed, Jenn. People don't talk about grief. People hide from grief. People are scared to feel, because they do feel like they're just going to be a puddle and not be able to function. And so for me, I was 200 pounds 20 years ago because I didn't know how to function with my grief. So I ate a shit ton of food. So I love that you're bringing this out there. And for you sisters that are wanting more joy in your life and are considering opening up your heart again to a new partner, this is important. This is a big piece to opening to joy. So any last words, Jenn? Because that was amazing.
Thank you so much, Junie. I just so appreciate you. I so appreciate your work and your community and for having me here today. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so glad that this worked because I was like, when can we do this? You
Yeah.
know, this is a great, important message. All right, sister. So thank you, Jenn. Thank you for being here. And sisters, go sign up. How much is the event, by the way, Jenn?
It's free. It's a free event.
Oh my. It's a free event. So yeah, and that's what's so precious because you're reaching a lot of people to be able to support them. You know, and I do the same thing. I have an event coming up soon. And, you know, I love doing these events that can reach a lot of people. And then there are some people that want to continue to do some deeper dive, but this way we get to help more people. So it's a free event. So the price is right. And we'll have the link there. So all right. Thanks, Jenn. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Bye, everyone.